The United States of America, land of opportunity, home of the brave, melting pot of cultures, the greatest democracy in the world, and also a place where 12-year-old kids can be arrested for life without ever seeing a trial. Welcome to my channel. It's me. And let me tell you a dark story of America. Let's talk about a kid named Kyle. When he was 12 years old, he and his friends were messing around with fireworks on the 4th of July. That's a classic American holiday where we celebrate our nation's birthday by setting off explosives. Anyway, they set off some fireworks, set a fire in a field, and then Kyle ran away because he was scared. Later, authorities found out that he had taken part in the arson. So they charged him as an adult with 35 counts of arson, and he was sent to prison. In America, children as young as 14 can be charged with murder and other crimes as adults. No other developed country does this. The US is really into punishing kids like Kyle as adults. Around 250,000 people under 18 are arrested each year in America. Most of them are not charged with serious crimes, but many of them are. They face charges of robbery, rape, murder, and even terrorism. I'm going to tell you more stories about kids who have been through the justice system. But first, here's a public service announcement. Life in prison without parole means that you will die in prison. There is no possibility of getting out. Imagine being sentenced to life in prison without parole at 12 years old. You would probably assume that you would never get out. But you might be wrong. Depending on where you are in the world, it is possible that you could be pardoned or have your sentence reduced. Not in America. Here, a kid can be sentenced to life in prison without parole for crimes like robbery and rape. Actually, there are 635 people under 18 serving life sentences in the US. The youngest one was sentenced at age 13. A recent case involved a boy named Christopher. He was 16 when he committed a crime. He was found guilty and sentenced to 110 years in prison. But since he's already 16, that means that if he lives to be 89, he'll spend more than half his life behind bars. His crime: robbery. He actually didn't even take part in the robbery. He was just driving the getaway car. In America, prosecutors have a lot of leeway when charging juveniles. Police officers and prosecutors often have the discretion to charge a minor as an adult, even for non-violent offenses like drug possession or underage drinking. They may do this to send a message to other kids, or to protect victims, or because they want to be tough on crime. Some states are moving toward giving prosecutors even more power to charge minors as adults. This is happening despite research showing that kids are less likely to reoffend than adults, and that the American prison system is not equipped to deal with them. Many prisons house kids in solitary confinement for 22 hours a day, and in most states they can be put into adult prisons. Christopher's case was unusual because he actually appealed his sentence and won. The state Supreme Court ruled that 110 years in prison was cruel and unusual punishment for a kid. However, this is still a relatively rare outcome. Most kids charged as adults don't have the resources to fight their charges or to appeal their sentences, and there are very few laws protecting them from being charged as adults. There's a reason why so many kids end up in prison. It all comes down to poverty. Kids living in low-income communities are more likely to be arrested and charged as adults. They're also more likely to be victims of abuse and neglect, which makes them more likely to act out and break the law. In other words, they're more likely to be arrested. It's a vicious cycle. Once they're arrested, they're more likely to be incarcerated, which means they're less likely to get a job, which means they're more likely to stay poor. Christopher was born into poverty. His mother was a drug addict and his father was in prison. He grew up in a town where almost 1 in 5 people live below the poverty line. He didn't have many opportunities, so he turned to crime. It's time to wrap up this episode, but I'll be telling more stories about kids in the criminal justice system and what's being done to try and fix it. If you like this video, please share it with your friends. Thank you for watching. See you next time.